So I'm a little confused about what precedent means here. Ms. DeVos, many of my Democratic colleagues have pointed out your lack of experience in K-12 public schools, but I'd like to ask you about your qualifications for leading the nation on higher education. The Department of Education is in charge of making sure that the $150 billion that we invest in students each year gets into the right hands, and that students have the support they need to be able to pay back their student loans. The Secretary of Education is essentially responsible for managing a $1 trillion student loan bank and distributing $30 billion in Pell Grants to students each year. The financial futures of an entire generation of young people depend on your department getting that right. Now, Mrs. DeVos, do you have any direct experience in running a bank? Have you ever managed or overseen a $1 trillion loan program?
I have not.
How about a $1 billion loan program?
I have not.
Because now we all know that President-elect Trump's experience with higher education was to create a fake university, which resulted in his paying a $25 million to students that he cheated. So here's my question. How do you plan to protect taxpayer dollars?
Senator, if confirmed, I will certainly be very vigilant.
Yeah, I'm asking how. How are you going to do that? You said you're committed.
The individuals with whom I work in the department will ensure that federal monies are used properly and appropriately, and I will look forward to working with this committee.
Of enacting laws.
That is not the only ethics problem with your nomination. Part of the deal you got from Raytheon when you left as their top lobbyist was at least $1 million in deferred compensation after 2022, end quote. This smacks of corruption, plain and simple. So here's my question. Will you commit that during your time as Defense Secretary that you will not seek any waiver that will allow you to participate in matters that affect Raytheon's financial interests?
Well, Senator, let me correct the record with regard to what you said. At any time in the past 20-some months, to include the last 3 weeks, did I request or seek or receive or be granted any waiver?
I appreciate, Dr. Esper, that you have not in the past asked for one, but you're the one who has detailed an exception to your ethics obligation.
He's trying to answer a question. We'd like to recognize him to answer that question.
I won't read the whole thing in the interest of time, but it says, quote, "At no time while serving as the Secretary of the Army or the Acting Secretary of Defense did you," he's writing to me, "request, seek, or receive a waiver or authorization related to your ethics agreement and ethics obligations," unquote.
Secretary Esper, the American people deserve to know that you're making decisions in our country's best security interests, not in your own financial interests. You can't make those commitments to this committee. That means you should not be confirmed as Secretary of Defense.
At the age of 18, I went to West Point, and I swore an oath to defend this Constitution. And I embraced a motto called duty and honor and country. And I've lived my life in accordance with those values ever since then. I went to war for this country. I served overseas for this country. I've stepped down from jobs that paid me well more than what I was working anywhere else. And each time it was to serve the public good and to serve the young men and women of our armed services. So no, I disagree. I think the presumption is, for some reason, anybody who comes from the business or the corporate world is corrupt.
So I'm asking the question.
Excellent.
No.
Stop.
This is not right, Mr. Chairman.
Senator
He does
Sullivan
not. I
is
didn't
recognized.
ask a question
Senator
at the end.
Sullivan's you've gone 2 minutes over.
No,
your
I
time.
haven't gone over.
Yes,
He
you
has
have.
gone over. And he
Senator
is
Sullivan,
not willing to make a
recognized.
commitment that he will not engage in conflicts of interest
Thank you,
for
Mr.
the
Chairman.
company for which he was a lobbyist. This is outrageous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of enacting laws.
So when you talk now about how certain regulations are too costly or too difficult to comply with, you sound a lot like you did before the 2008 crisis when you failed to act. So my question is, given your track record at the Fed, why should anyone take you seriously now?
So since you were responsible for creating the CFPB, you know and set forth the notion that they should be a data-driven organization. And we can debate whether they are or not, but I can assure you the Fed was and is a data-driven organization. There was simply no data provided to the Fed on a statistical, let me finish please, Senator, on a statistical basis that suggested that there was a meltdown in the mortgage market in 2005
I'm sorry,
and
are
2006.
you saying there were no data in the lead-up to the financial crash that showed the increasing default rates on subprime mortgages and what they were doing to communities across America? Did you have your eyes stitched closed?
There was anecdotal evidence, to be sure,
I'm not
but there was
talking
no hard
anecdotal.
data.
Are you telling me you never saw any data about the increases in mortgage foreclosure rates before the crash in 2008? Is that what you're saying? And when you wanted the job at the CFPB, you claimed that you had learned from your failure. But I see today that's obviously not the case.
of enacting laws
You've gone 2 minutes over.
No,
your
I
time.
haven't gone over.
Yes,
He
you
has
have.
gone over. And he
Senator
is
Sullivan,
not willing to make a
record.
commitment that he will not engage in conflicts of interest
Thank you,
for
Mr.
the
Chairman.
company for which he was a lobbyist. This is outrageous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
of enacting laws